Since childhood, many have dreamed of becoming pilots, soaring in captivating yet deadly fighters or attack aircraft while performing aerobatic maneuvers and marveling at breathtaking views. The sky and its freedom have always called to us and continue to do so. Not everyone was able to fulfill their dreams. But we have cinema, which allows us to experience emotions beyond our reach in reality. There are actually many films about airplanes and pilots, but films about real flight, there are disappointingly few of those. In this video, I want to talk about films that give you a chance to at least briefly immerse yourself in the cockpit of a real airplane and experience the freedom of flight and all the beauty of the views that open before your eyes.
UCAV, your position is always on my starboard side. Other starboard.
That's hot.
Got no heart, but it sure can fly. That's not bad for a 10-man.
Eddie, it's official. We got a call sign. UCAV 10-man EDI, the first.
Stealth, a science fiction film from 2005 about a special squadron of American pilots in the near future. A drone with artificial intelligence is assigned to this squadron for training, which goes crazy after being struck by lightning. This is a big budget project that cost $135 million to make. The film was shot with active support from the US Navy. There are plenty of aircraft and aerial duels here, and they look dynamic and exciting. The flights are truly impressive, but everything else raises questions. What can you say? The film flopped at the box office and received scathing reviews from audiences and critics. The abundance of plot holes and cliches is depressing. The film was also criticized for poor acting and for blatantly ignoring the laws of physics. But the graphics and real footage pulled the picture up to the level of an entertaining popcorn action flick.
야, 이거 오늘 멋진 계기가 나오는데요, 한대가.
Terranat.
Return to Base, or Soar into the Sky, a South Korean action film released in 2012 inspired by Top Gun with Tom Cruise. The main character is a young, reckless, but talented pilot who gets kicked out of an aerobatic team for a risky stunt and is sent to serve in a fighter squadron. Just at this time, a North Korean plane enters South Korean airspace. And there's also a prestigious pilot competition coming up that the hero needs to win. The film has a lot of cliched stereotypes and boasts a distinctive Asian charm, but the flight sequences are impressively executed. Beautiful, rich visuals with interesting camera angles are fully capable of transporting the viewer into the sky. The film has scenes with real aircraft as well as CGI, but there are plenty of flight sequences, and they're diverse. There are races, aerobatic maneuvers, and aerial battles, including a battle over a densely populated city. You can tell the film had a modest budget of $8 million, but every penny was put to good use. Born to Fly, a Chinese film from 2023 telling the story of a squadron of test pilots testing a new domestically produced engine. This is a big budget blockbuster with a $50 million budget, so visually the film looks very good. The director was Liu Shaoshi, who spent more than 15 years making documentaries and promotional films for the Chinese Air Force. They filmed real military equipment on the ground, but there's a lot of computer graphics in the sky, which sometimes catches the eye, though there are real shots too. They brought in consultants from the Chinese Air Force to work on the film. This is very patriotic cinema. You need to be prepared for that. Plus there's that special Asian flavor that's characteristic of both Korean and Chinese films. And the script occasionally lacks logical coherence.
Take a look at the man beside you. It's a good bet that in the next 6 weeks, you or he will be dead. Everyone brave enough to accept this, step forward.
Pearl Harbor, a big-budget blockbuster from Michael Bay about the Japanese aviation attack on the American naval base in Hawaii. At the center of the plot is the relationship between two childhood friends who dreamed of aviation their whole lives and eventually became pilots during the bloodiest war in human history. And as it happened, the friends fell in love with the same woman. This is a film about love, about friendship, about mutual support and self-sacrifice for the sake of loved ones. There's not much historical accuracy to be observed. In any case, everything is beautiful and atmospheric. A $140 million budget allowed the creators to go all out and colorfully show combat operations both on land and, more importantly, in the air. The actors who played pilots took basic flight training courses, and in some shots even piloted the aircraft themselves. The filmmakers were also allowed to install and then detonate pyrotechnics on real military ships.
Someday we might have to land with our flaps shut away. So we might as well practice now. Looks like we got hit in our fuel tank too. Please don't, sir. This might save your life one day, Murray. Engine's about to die.
Midway, an adaptation of another major battle in the Pacific Theater of Operations. The film briefly shows the attack on Pearl Harbor, but the main action unfolds during the battle from Midway Atoll. The creators tried to show historical events as accurately as possible, though they didn't avoid cinematic liberties. At the center of the plot is Richard Best, a real pilot and squadron commander who participated in the raid. This is very spectacular cinema, directed by Roland Emmerich, Hollywood's main specialist in disaster films. In Midway, most of what happens on screen is graphics, but they also used a lot of real equipment. The creators tried to find historical examples for filming, but almost everything had already been reconstructed or rebuilt. So the team created the equipment from scratch, recreating historical images from photos and videos. Rear Admiral Sam Cox said in an interview that this is the most realistic film ever made about a naval battle.
Who's next? Lieutenant Dickinson. Well, you can tell Lieutenant Dickinson from me, he couldn't hit a bull in the butt with a bass fiddle. Yes, sir.
Tora, Tora, Tora. Completing the Pearl Harbor theme, we can't help but talk about this Japanese-American film from 1970. This is an epic, unhurried canvas that tells in detail and with documentary accuracy about the preparation for the attack and the actual attack itself, from both sides, both from the US and from Japan. The film was shot partly in the US, partly in Japan. The creators were consulted by veterans of both armies, including one of the attack plan's authors, Minoru Genda. The film features a huge amount of real equipment, especially aircraft. It's claimed that a scene of a real B-17 bomber crash made it into the final cut. The film won an Academy Award for Best Visual Effects. The picture looks good even 50 years later, but it must be admitted that there isn't that much combat action here. More diplomacy, planning, and preparation.
The Germans just bombed the railway yard at Bobigny. If you hurry, you can cut them off. It is a chance to be more aggressive in your tactics. If you do well, you may get another chance at Jamais.
Flyboys, a war film based on real events, set in the skies over Europe during World War I, telling about the squadron of the same name, named after the Frenchman Gilbert du Motier, Marquis de Lafayette. The characters are Americans who voluntarily went to war to learn to fly biplanes and then participate in combat operations against German aircraft. The main character is played by James Franco. The film can boast interesting and deep characters. Each of the young men has his own motivation and his own reasons for risking his life in a war that seems foreign. Of course, the biplanes of those years have no chance of competing in dynamics with modern aircraft, but the film's creators managed to show impressive scenes of aerial combat and everything related to airplanes and flying them. By the way, during the war, according to official data, the squadron's pilots shot down 33 aircraft, with 16 credited to Roel Lufbery, the prototype of Franco's hero.
Pick him up.
Thank you. You saved this man's life.
No, I shot him down.
The Red Baron, a biographical film about one of the most famous military pilots in history, Baron Manfred von Richthofen, who earned the nickname the Red Baron. During the 4 years of World War I, Richthofen shot down 73 aircraft according to confirmed data and another 11 according to unofficial records. The film reveals the character and motives of a man who, at the beginning of the war, considered it an interesting adventure, as did very many young people in those years, but by the end realized all the horror of what was happening. This is a distinctly anti-war film that literally screams that it's against war. It's hard to say how historically accurate the film is in terms of reflecting the real person's personality, but judging by articles about the Baron, the film treated Richthofen very carefully and tried not to invent anything unnecessary. But the war, the aircraft, the atmosphere, and everything else, everything related to the realism of what was happening around the famous pilot, definitely looks realistic. Richthofen was played by German actor Matthias Schweifer, and the pilot's beloved was played by Lena Headey.
I got him locked. Bingo. We got him, Mav. He's bugging out and going home. Mustang, this is Maverick. MiG-2 is headed home.
Top Gun, Tom Cruise's first starring role and a very solid film about pilots of an elite unit called Top Gun. In 1986, the creators managed to construct a spectacular and exciting film for $15 million. Thanks to high support from the American military, the creators had no shortage of real military equipment and actual pilots. They filmed on the real aircraft carrier USS Enterprise, and the main aircraft were the F-14A and F-40. A good half of the screen time takes place in the air. Training, battles, and real combat go on almost non-stop, and it's all live shooting, real aircraft, and actual aerobatic maneuvers. Rich visuals are able to show all the details of aerial duels. The film earned high marks from both critics and audiences, which is confirmed by the cosmic box office take of $360 million. And in 2022, a direct sequel was released where Cruise returned to his role. But more about that in a couple of minutes.
Voilà.
Ça y est, tenu? Eh ben, on va aller à gauche maintenant. Allez, je vous laisse faire. Bon, on va peut-être faire une pause. Allez, je reprends.
Skyfighters, a real gem of the genre. This French film from 2005 tells the story of two pilots serving in the French Air Force. It's a film about strong friendship and mutual support. The lesser-known cast delivers solid performances, and well-written characters overcome all the triteness of the archetypes. But the plot here is more of a formality. Did they somehow justify what's happening on screen? Great, let's go shoot. The main virtue of this film is the mesmerizing flights in modern fighters. Absolutely incredible aerial scenes simply enchant with their beauty and immersion. Obviously, this is exactly what they made the film for. They threw in a plot just to have one and went to shoot airplanes in the sky. And it was worth it. There are simply no equals to Skyfighters in terms of atmosphere and immersion. They flew for real, shot aerial battles for real. And another fighter loaded with movie cameras served as the cameraman. In addition, the action is complemented by excellent music, which also works very well for the atmosphere.
Maverick to range control. Entering point Alpha. Confirm green range.
Maverick, range control. Green range is confirmed. I don't see an event scheduled for you, sir.
Well, I'm going anyway.
Nice.
Top Gun Maverick, a direct sequel to Top Gun with Tom Cruise, released in 2022. Absolutely wonderful cinema for those thirsting for flight. Everything here is done as authentically as possible and filmed perfectly. Real aircraft, real aerobatic maneuvers, real G-forces. For filming, Cruise mastered flying a fighter jet. He felt that actors could only convey G-forces under real G-forces, so all the actors actually flew. True, with real pilots in two-seat aircraft, but Cruise piloted himself. G-forces during maneuvers reached 8G. Filming such a movie was generally a challenging task because they placed 6 IMAX cameras in each cockpit, and they're not small. And that's not to mention that the actors had to operate the cameras themselves. Yes, you can reasonably have complaints about the plot, illogical character actions, and jingoistic patriotism. But how well this is shot? This is literally the gold standard of films about flight. Perhaps in the upcoming sequel, the creators will be able to surprise viewers even more, but for now, Maverick is in a league of its own. Among other things, the film became a box office hit. With a budget of $140 million, the box office brought in $1.5 billion.